Okay, folks, good morning. 22nd of August, 2022. Yes, it's the middle of the night. Air conditioners are not running, but you can hear the fantastic fan set on temperature control. So it's going to be going up and down in speed, exhausting the heat and the air in the motorhome here. Now, no, I can't sleep, and I'm just barely awake. I've done 2 shorts and uploaded it to the channel, as you might have seen. And what I want to get across to you is that you can really do something major to change your life and to change everything that's going on around you and around us right now. We all want to blame Brandon. We want to blame somebody else. And we victimize ourselves and paralyze ourselves by taking a victim stance and basically don't take any action at all. By failing to take action, we remain paralyzed. Things are going to change, actually. They are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. What I want to impress upon you is that you have to seize the moment. You have to live in the moment, which means you have to take control, which means you have to give up this victim mentality. Because as long as you paint yourself as a victim, you're giving the other son of a bitch control. So, you're actually responsible for your predicament more than what you think, and you got a lot more power. So rather than giving the power to Brandon or to the green people or any other stuff, or to the Muslims or the Jews or to Christians or to the pagans or to anybody else, or to the blacks or to the polka dots or to the Latinos or to the Indians or the whites, rather than giving your power over to the other son of a bitch, you have to keep the locus of control here. You have to keep it here, which means you have to acknowledge your contribution. Now, let's go to another. I'll try to transition here. Okay. Transition's very simple. You and I have contributed to the messes that we're in. We've contributed to the status of the world. Yes, we have. By our indifference, by our failures to recognize, the responsibility we have and the power that we have, and to take our power back, to take control over ourselves and our lives, and get about doing our business, to make action plans. Even when you make an action plan and take action and it doesn't work, you learn from it and you get forward motion, which allows you to adjust again and get on a better track. Satan and his children. Yeah, I love to blame them, don't you? It's pretty easy. Most of you don't know who they are to begin with. I think I do. And I can't recognize them all. We tend to judge others by the goodness of our own hearts. They would never do that. Why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. That's insane. That's just not reasonable. We can't think that poorly of them. They would never do that to another. Well, the problem is they're actually pretty damn evil, and you have no idea as to how evil they are and what they're thinking and what motivates them. You have no idea. But I have an idea for you. Yahweh set this whole thing in motion. Yeah, the whole universe. Every bit of it, even this place that our planet is in our solar system, revolving around the galaxy, revolving around the Milky Way, which takes a long time to go around the whole Milky Way. But even that has been finessed in its designs. Satan and his children were given the power to sift us. Okay? Satan works for Yahweh, only he doesn't know it. And his purpose is to sift us, to refine us, so Yahweh can know that we are true or not true. I know I tend to outthink myself. Sometimes I think in circles. Sometimes I box myself in. Sometimes I paint myself in the corner, as my supervisor, who was so brilliant, told me. Well, to repeat, Satan works for Yahweh, only he doesn't know it. But he doesn't know it. The problem is, the Satans were given license, and clearly they've exceeded their license, because they're not merely sifting us, they're actually killing us. They're murdering us. They're genociding us. They do it with their slow kill technology, and sometimes they do it pretty fast with some of their satanic ritual abuse ceremonies, which are as long and as slow as they can to make that poor soul suffer as much as possible. So with that in mind, that Satan has exceeded, that the devil and his children have exceeded their license, we need to take action. Now, we were never designed to fight this fight by ourselves, alone. We weren't designed not to be in relationship with Creator Father Yahweh. You see, that's what really happened in the garden, is that we lost that constant relationship. Adam walked in the cool of the day with his father in the garden. We lost that. The best way to get it back is, that's right, go and buy one of my Bibles. Okay, I'll share that with some pride here. Get a good Bible. Doesn't have to be my Bible, which my phone is upon at this moment, so I will gently lift the camera up and show it to you. Get this angle set on this Sony Viao old computer base for the breakout box. Works pretty good as a stand for my cell phone. That's my Bible. That's my current Bible. It is a King James Bible. However, it's better than the King James Bible because it's the proper name version. And like they did in the book of Genesis, and that last line of that one chapter says, at that time, men began to call upon the name of Yahweh. Don't let yourself get sidetracked. You know, the first commandment was, thou shalt have no other gods before me. God's is a noun, but not a proper name. You could call it a class or an object even. But in this case, Creator, Father, God, Yahweh has told us his name. And he tells us he's alive, and he spent time with Adam in the garden, and he'll spend time with you. It's basically my promise. However, you and I are different. I've invited everybody to watch this channel, to be exposed to my thinking, and I invite everybody to worship the same God. So there are members of my faith, brothers and sisters, that don't want to share our God. They want to exclude others. Yet who am I to tell others that they're not allowed to worship Yahweh? Who am I to tell them that they're not to help fulfill the scriptures, that every knee shall bow? So even though we may be Yahweh's children, we were put here for a purpose, and that was to look out after the rest of creation, to steward it, to honor our Father in that creation, to do his will, which of course is why Yeshua, his son, had to appear here. And of course, I can argue and tell you that was really God in the flesh. You know, I can argue with you and even make a claim that's the Father himself. But those are mysterious things that are beyond us right now. Beyond me, anyway. But what's not a mystery is the simple fact that we've got a book of history and a book of law that gives tremendous guidance and insight. And it's the foundation for Western civilization, which is under attack today. So do your part to save Western civilization. We used to be educated using the Bible as our primary reader. When our nation was founded, this was the book. Okay, it wasn't the proper name version, which was basically copyrighted in 2015. And this thing's got a secondary date of 2019 for the actual form of the publication. I think there's 2 copyrights there. One's on the presentation. This is what you want to get. In my opinion, it's the best translation. It's the easiest to understand. Don't get me wrong, the Old English is fine. And there's some errors in the original King James. This is better. So I call upon you to do your duty. I don't care what race you come from or what your religious background is. Read this book. Read it. Find out your place in it. Work out your own salvation. Because you out there who are not of my kind, it's your duty. It's your responsibility to read this book as well. Discover the truth. Figure out the path to your salvation. Work out your salvation. And when you find it in this book, tell the rest of us about it, because we want to know. I'm still working on mine. I think the reason Yeshua had to come and was to live among us and to provide the example. And being like him, to me, means doing what he did. He didn't do anything of his own will. He did it but of the will of his Father, of our Father. And so I challenge you. Create that relationship with Yahweh. But you're only going to get it by reading, sitting down and reading this for yourself. You can't let anybody else tell you what it means, not even me. I can tell you what I think, I can share my ideas, I can put it in the best context I can share the stories I've collected over the years from men who have been around a lot longer than I, that have been reading this more and have greater understanding or have different understanding. And we can brainstorm together. As iron sharpens iron, we can help each other with that. But this battle requires your Bible. It requires your mind, applying your mind. It requires discerning the will of Yahweh. It requires building that Holy Spirit up in you. So when the moment of decision comes, a moment of truth, when you have to make those choices so that you can think properly and also turn in to your gut feeling, turn into the Holy Spirit, turn in to your heart that controls you, which actually is probably in your enteric nervous system and in your organs, because when the Bible speaks of the heart, according to people at Bible college, when I went there a long time ago, just went one semester, I wasn't well received and didn't have it wasn't a very Christian experience, I'll put it that way. I laugh about it now, but it wasn't any fun. Fact is, I wasn't a Bible reader back then. Didn't realize how important it was. I had to be humbled. I had to have the wind taken out of my sails. I had to have it done twice, not just one stroke, but 2 strokes. Kicked my ass. As a result, I sat on my ass and I read my NIV study Bible for 18 months, almost daily. Had a nice chair with nice picture windows, reading to natural light. Had a reading desk that was at an angle, relaxed the back design that held the Bible there. Had a chair that I had custom made up, was going to use in my office, and had Afghans that my mother had knitted for me and blankets. And I had my pets. I had my cat and my dog with me, and they quite often get up together on my lap till they started getting too big, and that includes the cat getting too big. That cat was something. He'd come when I call him, he'd meow and answer to me from wherever he was in the house, and I trained him how to use the toilet, but it got to be a little bit confusing. So, and I never taught him how to flush because I didn't want him playing with the water. But yeah, he really did use the toilet in the house. I was shocked. It was quite a cat. Cat loved me. I miss him. He had a birth defect. He died rather early. And I miss my dog too. He looked out after me quite well. He was a black lab, Great Dane mix, and he could read my mind. I'd walk into Walmart wanting to shop for something, and quite often I'd just say out loud to myself and my dog what I was looking for. The next thing I know, the dog's pulling on me, leading the way. And I'm like, what? Okay, let's see where he takes me. We're in different cities across the country. He takes me right to what I'm looking for. Every time. He knew the store. I don't know how, but he knew it. And then I got to the point where I stopped saying what I wanted out loud and just thinking what I wanted. Same thing. He'd do the same trick. He'd find it. He'd take me right to it. And he was watching out for me. Because those foreigners among us who have been looking me over, when I had my dog, they don't like dogs. They like cats. And they left me alone when I had that dog with me because he wasn't small. And the dog loved me and would do anything. I got more than 15 years out of a Great Dane mix. It's hard to cry about it, except I miss him so much. My challenge to you is to read the Bible. And I want you to read it not as a religious book. Religions are basically man-made. I want you to read this as a history book. I want you to learn the names of the characters. I want you to learn the plot. I want you to study character development. I want you to study what money is. The Bible will tell you what money is. There's a definition of it in the Bible. Maybe together we can bring this nation back to Yahweh in good standing. Maybe together we can get Creator, Father, God, Yahweh to bless America once again. When Yahweh doesn't like what his people are doing, he gives them bad leaders. That's what we have right now. And I know a lot of you out there want to worship Donald Trump. He's okay. He wasn't that good. Yes, life was better, extremely better. But he wasn't that good in his deal making, I don't think. And he didn't understand how to he didn't understand the foundations of the nation. No, he didn't. He didn't understand, or he didn't lead on to understanding that the Republic has been destroyed. The Republic was destroyed decades ago. Inch by inch, measure by measure, they took the full 9 yards. They went a mile. They destroyed us. We don't have a republic. We don't have a democracy. We don't live under the Constitution. And that's because we've allowed the evil ones to take us over. And we've allowed them to place a wedge between us and between Yahweh. They read the Bible too. They know that if they can get us to do the sins that are delineated therein, this is a law history book, if they can get us to repeat the past mistakes, they get the same outcome for us, including plague, famine, war. This book will tell you the big picture. It'll give you more perspective. You're not going to get it in school. You'll never allow this thing back into the schools. And even the seminaries, they're not going to teach you the full truth. You don't need them, but you need the Bible, and you need yourself, and you need some time. You have to press in. The Bible does not open itself up readily to the casual observer. And even when you're a seasoned reader, like I am, you can make too much of things in here and get off a bit. And I like this version because I don't get off as far as and outthink this thing or overthink and make assumptions that really don't hold water, like I can in the original King James Version, because the Old English is, and the old syntax is a little different. We're in an unlimited war. The same people that gave you the plague, the Black Plague, the same people that gave you the recent plague, the same people that give you electronic pollution, sound pollution, all of those chemicals that are harmful to us, that have never been proven to be safe. The same people that bring you bad teaching and disguise themselves as angels and philanthropists and good people really have been ruining the world. I mean, even those guys that we thought were for the children, who did stuff, produced content for children. We thought those were good people, good guys. And they weren't. They were doing evil all the time. And we failed. We fell asleep at the wheel. And while men slept, evil men crept in and took over. We slept. And they screwed up our religion. And one of the things was we lost the name of Yahweh. It was removed from the Bible in approximately 275 BC. And it hasn't been put back in the Bible until this century. So this is a major improvement. I suggest you get it. I haven't read through it all myself yet. I've been going around in it too much. But I need to start doing a proper read through it. It's going to take me a lot of time because I'm a slow reader. I have to process things and I look at them. And the genealogies have more meaning these days, and I try to tease things out and study it and sort it out. Try to learn a little bit more. So that takes me some time. I really hope you'll buy one of my Bibles. I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll become a regular Bible reader. Please like my videos. Comment, please. And subscribe. Share these videos. And the sad fact is, we're fighting against an enemy who's fighting an unlimited war on all fronts. For our children, for all of our institutions, with all kinds of weapons. They have weapons that you and I can't even imagine. They really exist, and they're using them all the time. They've got psychotronic weapons. They've got stuff they've been using so long that you might as well accept the fact that they aren't science fiction. Those things really exist. And the sad fact is that it appears we're limited to fighting back spiritually. So we have to conduct a spiritual warfare. Doesn't bother me, except quite often I'd like to strike back at these evil people, at these people that do bad, at these people that kill our people. I'd like to take them out. But I think I can't do that. Yahweh will step in. He will take vengeance. But he's not going to do it without you doing your part, which is to read the Bible for yourself. It's more important than going to church. Matter of fact, I say stay out of the churches. They're just businesses, and the government, our Treasury Department, through the IRS rules and regulations, limits what they can preach. They dictate what can be preached from the pulpit. And the pastors are happy just to put on a show and lie. Because for them, it's a profitable business. It's big business. You might be astounded to learn, I think, that the doggone churches should pay taxes like everybody else. You may think that I think that they should get away with it. Well, actually, the rest of us should not be paying the taxes and have the burden we have. Our nation was founded upon the principles in this book. Our laws came from the Bible. And for the first decade, the first 10 years of our existence, this is what we went by. Until the law was changed in Pennsylvania. And I suspect the Quakers changed it because they couldn't stand the penalty, administering the penalty for adultery. And I believe from a previous presentation from a brother of mine that he said that they changed it. So instead of adultery being punishable by death, it was punishable by 10 years in the stocks, 10 years in prison. See, the people felt better about themselves by doing it that way. If we had biblical law according to other brothers, we wouldn't even need penitentiaries. And of course, this is a pretty strident law book. It can be what we think is harsh, but having served in our penitentiaries, I think some of the men that I worked with in the penitentiaries would rather have been put to death than to have continued on living. And they can't get relief. And I think in times before they would have been put to death, stoned, executed. But we don't do that for those crimes today, and we tolerate quite a bit. I think as a direct result of that, our murder rate is just starting to take off, just like inflation is just starting to take off. People aren't going to be able to get justice. Not with these prosecutors, not with these people in charge who are trying to administer social justice. There's no such thing as social justice or economic justice. There is only justice, and justice must remain pure. I need you to read the Bible. You need to get this law etched on your hearts. We're living through that day and that age in which most of us already have the law etched in our hearts. We naturally know right from wrong. That's most of us, but not all of us. And the problem is we've been hobbled by the people that are ruling over us, because they're busy killing us anytime they want. If they want somebody, they get them, whichever way they have to go about it. And most of these murders, these executions and assassinations that are done on the behalf of politicians and the elite are done in a fashion that they're almost always ruled death by natural causes. And of course, the people that are in the positions to certify these deaths want to make sure they don't cross swords and get murdered, or their families get murdered as well. These people practice unlimited warfare on us. We can only fight back spiritually. And once we start abiding by the law, then we can administer justice and get rid of some of them as they deserve to be gotten rid of once and for all. I wish you would read the Bible. I wish we could save our nation. The world depends upon us getting control of our nation back and upon reestablishing the republic. If you want to reestablish a republic, you go back to the last properly ratified amendment, which was the original 13th Amendment, which they erroneously call regarding titles of nobility and all that. That's just to throw you off. It really was considered the separation of powers in order to have this form of government and to have it stable and keep it stable and to stay out of wars, which one branch of government was getting us into errantly. We needed to put the attorneys in their place. We needed to get rid of the Bar Association because it was beholding to the British Crown, the British Accreditation Registry. The attorneys can start the American Accreditation Registry or something similar to that and give up the old traditions in which their loyalties are really to the Crown. And I don't know if that's to the Crown, the pomp and circumstance one that Queen Elizabeth II wears right now, or if it's the Crown, the corporation of attorneys that inhabits the city of London, which is like a separate nation within the city, within that nation, just like Washington, D.C. is separated from the rest of us. Folks, we need to go back to the original 13th Amendment and all subsequent amendments, especially the 14th and the 15th. They should be ruled out of order because the South was not properly represented, and they were foisted off on the South. The South was not electing their They're senators and congressmen at the time, and they weren't given representation, so those are null and void. And all subsequent amendments, well, the 16th was never even voted upon. The acting director of the Secretary of the Treasury actually made an announcement with another bureaucrat saying it had been ratified. It wasn't even voted upon, and that's your IRS. And as far as the 17th Amendment, that's against the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. Why? Because that holds for the direct election of senators. And you may think, well, that's a good thing. We want to be represented. Well, you already have the direct election of representatives in Congress, but your senators were to represent the state governments. You see, you and I, we didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. We didn't sign the Constitution. We weren't parties of that. Yes, my ancestors signed the Declaration of Independence. Yes, my ancestors were involved in the Constitution. I don't think I had anybody sign the Constitution from the family. But as far as who signed the Constitution, those were the representative of the state governments. And today, since the state governments are no longer represented, there is no republic. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think you get it. Well, if you're listening to me on a regular basis, I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again. The senators were elected from among the state legislators. So the state legislature would get together in session and they would debate and argue among themselves for their state. You know, these were the fellows that were elected by the people to their senates and to their House of Representatives, and that form of government was guaranteed. Republican form of government was guaranteed to the states as well, and I think we've got reason to kick California out of the Union right there. I'd be glad to do it to clean that mess up they've created over there. What a beautiful state that was. It used to be a very beautiful state. So what I'm getting at is that when these legislators voted, they sent 2 representatives to be senators representing them at the federal government level. And if the senator that they sent to D.C. did not vote the way the state government wanted them to vote, they were subject to instant recall, to being fired right on the spot. And then they would have to leave Washington, D.C., and they would be allowed to finish out the term of the seat to which they had been elected directly by the people in their state legislature. That's why things were slow in the Senate, because if the guys didn't behave themselves, if they wanted to rebel or act up or put a wrench in the wringer and vote the wrong way, the way the state government did not want them to vote, they were recalled instantly. And that's what we need. We don't need term limits on the senators. We just need the original structure our founders gave us. Likewise on the Congress. See, the Senate and the Congress made a deal. The Congress wanted to get paid, and the senators wanted to be elected directly by the people so they become lifetime politicians. And Congress didn't have term limits when we started it all. There was good argument, great debate over that, and I think they got it right. But Congress wasn't paid. They were considered volunteers, and they volunteered their service. And the idea was they controlled the purse strings. They managed the country's money. And in order to be able to do that, they were expected to come from successful businesses. They were expected to have been men of some standing with a little extra money in their pockets so they could afford to volunteer and give their time. They could afford to support themselves. And if they ran out of money, they went home. And another congressman was elected. Now, they were given a simple per diem, which basically was an untaxed stipend every day Congress was in session. It was to cover room and board. It was to defray the cost of lodging and the cost of meals while they were in session. We need to go back to that as well. No pay and no benefits for Congress. We can debate whether or not we should give them the franking privilege. But I say they pay for their own health insurance. They provide their own retirement plans. And the idea is that when they run out of money, because they're not supposed to be professional politicians, when they run out of money, they go home and somebody else serves instead. Everybody tells me we can't go back. We can't make those changes. Well, we can. But let's get right with God first. Let's get right with Creator Father Yahweh. Learn His name, use His name. Abide by the first commandment. I don't see how you can abide by the first commandment fully, properly, unless you know His name. And that's all I got for you this morning, folks. I went long, again, as usual. These things don't exactly help me to rest, but when I can't rest, I take action. So I'm going to get up and use this quiet time to spend with you. I don't have commercials on this channel. I haven't had enough views to qualify for that. I've already had some feedback that it was really nice not to have commercials. I also do not like my First Amendment, free speech, constitutional rights being abridged. And I do believe that if I ask for remuneration to have advertising, that they're going to scrutinize my channel much closer so they can maximize their profits off my channel. And they'll share a pittance with me. And I could use the money, but that's not the way I want it. The way I want it is this. I want you to buy my Bibles. There's several different versions around. This is the big one, big print. And there's even one that's got tabs on the sides of it. This one doesn't have tabs. I have a tab Bible, and I won't get another one because I want to be able to thumb through it and know my way around it a little bit better. And that forces me to learn the order of the books rather than rely upon the tabs. But I suggest you get the big one with the tabs on it. And if this is too big for you, get the standard sized one, which is pretty big. This is the large print, 14 point. Could damn near read it in the dark. When I first got it, I didn't have to use reading glasses with it. And I still can read it without reading glasses. It's just a little difficult. I need stronger reading glasses. Those are only one power. My ancestor oversaw the production of the original King James Bible. And his name was not Kent. They had to hide his identity and his parentage because of the times. And he oversaw the whole Bible, the 1611 Bible. And before that, he was probably the world's best playwright, certainly the number one playwright at the time. And people had a problem. And the problem was that the queen wasn't exactly truthful. She had a consort, and that man's last name was Kent. And he fathered 2 children by Queen Elizabeth. And there's quite a story behind that. I believe the oldest was Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon. And he knew the Queen was his mother. And the reason he could write all of that wonderful stuff into the plays about what was going on in the court is because he was privy to the inside stuff. He knew what was going on. So he could put in titillating things into that. But also I want you to remember that back then the stage was reserved. It wasn't deemed acceptable work for a woman. It wasn't becoming. So women were not allowed on the stage back then. So every one of those creatures on the stage was a man, including Juliet. So if you guys think that transgendered is something new, transvestitism is something new, I got something for you. There is not much new under the sun. And that holds true on so many levels. It's just not funny. Read this book. It's been said to be the book of all knowledge. It's been said to be the truth. There are definitely some stories in here that are just to guide us towards it that aren't exactly true. There are definitely things in here that will throw us off. The translators did a lot. The editors did a lot to harm the original Bible. We were getting closer to it. And I hope we have better versions in the future. Right now, this is it. I can't wait till we get the apocryphal books, a proper version of the Apocrypha. I hope we can get that. That's what I've asked for. For the Apocrypha, I'll be covering this other book a little bit more. I got to raise some money and order one more fresh, clean copy of this Bible before I hawk it and the price goes up, because the price will go up once I tell you, because those are hard to get. These aren't hard to get. And this is cheaper than any other Bible on the market of this sort of quality. You can go buy the Schofield Reference Study Bible. The last time I bought it, it was $117 10 years ago. It's probably $140, $145 now. This Bible rightfully should be costing more than that because it's far better. It doesn't have lies in the footnotes. Moses wasn't a Jew. There were no Jews back then. Just because Jew and Hebrew rhyme doesn't mean they're the equivalents of each other. Let's get to the truth. Let's get to it together. Let's live this together. Get Yahweh back in our land, in our hearts, and save our nation. When we force those people in D.C. to live according to the laws that we agreed to at Mount Sinai, yes, we agreed to it. Western civilization was built upon that. Most of us are Israelites and don't know it. We were called Caucasians after our ancestors crossed the Caucasus mountain range when they migrated out of Israel. Well, they were hauled out of Israel by the Assyrians, and then they were held in captivity for about 70 years, and they bolted across the Caucasus mountain range into Europe. That's when we got the name Caucasian. And our keepers don't want you to know that. Why? Because then you'd realize you aren't a Gentile. You're the real deal. You're the people of the book. You're the people of the old, oh my Lord, of the old covenant, with whom Yahweh said he was going to have a new covenant with the same people he made the old covenant. That's us. Learn about your heritage. Yahweh bless.